When we're going through our healing process, one thing that can definitely come up and start screaming louder and louder as we transform is a lot of fear and doubt. Is this for me? Is this possible? Am I worthy? Am I good enough to be doing this right now?
Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the quotes that have shaped their lives, inviting us all to reflect and grow together. Today we're joined by Jamie Green, a trauma release specialist and reiki master dedicated to guiding others through their healing journeys. With a rich background in neuro-linguistic programming and a personal story of resilience, Jamie empowers individuals to break free from emotional barriers and step into their true power. Let's dive into Jamie's world and explore the wisdom that has inspired her transformative path.
Okay.
Tell us your name and what your favorite quote is.
My name is Jamie Green, and one of my favorite quotes is by Marianne Williams. And I just have a note to make sure that I quote it perfectly. So, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
Yeah. Oh. This is one of those quotes that I happen to have seen personally before this time. I watched it and I think it was a movie by Samuel Jackson. It's Coach Carter, something like that.
Coach Carter.
Yeah. And when I it's one of those quotes that so when I was going through the form you filled, and I was like, wow. I was like, I'm super excited to chat with her and have her come on the podcast. How far back would you say you kind of encounter this quote?
This was, I want to say, back in like early high school for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. that was when.
Oh, that's back in like what, the 2009, around the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's been a while.
Okay. Why do you think this quote resonates deeply with you?
Well, from my own personal experience, it's definitely guided me and have been like an anchor for my own healing journey. When we're going through our healing process, one thing that can definitely come up and start screaming louder and louder as we transform is a lot of fear and doubt. Is this for me? Is this possible? Am I worthy? Am I good enough to be doing this right now? And so, as I've always gone back to that quote, that when we meet moments like that where the fear and doubt is screaming pretty loudly, you have to ask yourself, like, is this really fear and doubt because of where I'm going? Or is this fear and doubt from the mind just trying to protect yourself from being disappointed or being let down? It's the mind's job to keep us in our comfort zone, right? And so when we expand and we come to our edge or what we think is our edge, it's automatically going to start bringing up those questions, right? So it's up for ourselves to do like a deep dive in that moment and really ask, is this really our edge? Is this really the fear and doubt preventing us to move through and transform? Is it meant to protect us? Is it keeping us small for a reason? And then once we identify what that reason is, then we can have not only self-assurance, knowing that we're moving along the right path, right?
Yeah, I think there's I don't know if it's the same quote, but there was another part of the quote. I don't know if it's the same quote or by the same person, but what happened was that in the movie, that other quote was also mentioned, and it's that it is in shining our lights, we give others permission to shine theirs.
Yes.
And that for me, it's just, I have no words. When you say, the quote says, deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. I want us to, this quote, you said you've known this quote since back in 2009. That's about 16 years now. Okay. And for me, I want you to like give us instances, if you are kind enough to do that, 2 to 3 instances of your life in the past 16 years where you've had instances where it wasn't because you're inadequate, but like the quote played out itself. And yeah.
Yeah. So I would definitely call on my military experience. Being in the military, going in without any knowledge or background so what really to expect. And then getting additional degrees when I initially went in. So I started off as a low-ranking airman, and then I eventually worked my way up into a supervisor, which is E5. And there were many moments in time during my journey in the military where I questioned whether or not, one, is this the right decision that I've made for myself? Should I have really come into the military straight out of high school? And I learned what it meant to come to your edge. You know, when you come to that meeting point in your life where you have a challenge, and the challenge may seem like it's bigger than you. And in those moments is when you need the most support from the outside as well as internal, and it's just knowing that you are on the right path. And I soon came to find once I joined my unit that I ended up gravitating to a group of people that were also supportive. I was also able to provide empowerment and guidance for other low-level airmen as I worked myself up through the different ranks as well. So this quote definitely helped when I was meeting those different challenges to identify that not only am I going through my own challenges, but the same challenges that I'm going through, there are others like that. And I was able to provide guidance and support during that time to help them overcome their challenges.
Huh. Huh. Okay. That's one. That's one. Okay. Okay. I hope I'm not pushing it.
Also, another, I guess this is a little dear to my heart.
Take your time.
Being being a daughter of a Vietnam veteran, it came with its own set of challenges. You know, during that time, mm, my dad grew up during the silent generation. So when he came back and returned and came to home, there were a lot of mental battles that he was still dealing with, and that just sent ripples through my childhood, my upbringing. So during the many years after I left home, I suffered and dealt with a lot of self-doubt and a lot of self-worth questions, whether or not I was worthy, whether or not I was good enough to be doing really anything. And eventually had my son at a very young age. And one thing that was always playing in my mind, I knew for sure that I wanted to be better, regardless of the circumstances surrounding my situation and all of the past anger and hurt and shame and guilt that I was still carrying as a burden as a single mom, and all of those situations that I had put myself in when I was struggling with, you know, self-worth and doubt. Um, I always knew that I was better than the past situations and that I knew that I wanted to be better for my son. And so this quote was always a reminder through all of those challenges. Each and every one of us always has the power to change our circumstances. And my son was my guiding light, and he was the source of my determination and grit to do the deep healing and the deep work that was required in order to release all of that anger, the shame, and the guilt that I was carrying. And now that I've moved through all of my past fear and my past doubt, I'm now able to guide and help people release their past traumatic experiences and their limiting beliefs and limiting decisions so that they can step into their own power as well.
Wow. Oh. For a brief while you started telling the story,
Mhm.
my roles kind of switched. I forgot I was a podcast host. I thought I was part of the spectator. I get to just sit and listen. And then when you stopped, I was like, oh, so I'm the host. Now I'm supposed to continue. So yeah. Wow. Okay. And I'm going to ask for one more, as Oliver asked for one more.
For one more?
Yeah, one more.
Well, why not finish it off with the ending? As we are liberated from our own fear, presence automatically liberates others.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That's the part. Yeah, our presence automatically liberate others. Wow. Do you have before I ask other questions, do you have another story you want to add to the mix? No pressure, no pressure, no pressure. Okay. Oh wow. Those two stories you shared were incredible. And I feel like the last one you shared is not a story you share often though. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. Yeah. One of the things I want us to look deeply, I want us to look at the quote. The first part says, "It is not that we are inadequate." And you happen to help people do this. I'm guessing you're a coach, right? Okay. What does it mean for us to think or to fear that we're inadequate in concrete terms? I mean, it might seem like I understand what it means to fear that we're inadequate, but when people fear, the word inadequate doesn't necessarily run through their mind. It's in steps, it's in situations. You could probably give us an example of, a scenario or a hypothetical situation of that, and yeah, help us really understand what it means to fear that we're inadequate.
Two examples come to mind as when pursuing our careers, right? There are many times where we may pass different promotions or jobs because deep down we may feel as though that we're not enough or that we don't know enough. The imposter syndrome sneaks in. And that's a sign there is some limiting beliefs or limiting decisions that need to be pulled from the root so that we recognize that we do have the knowledge, we do have the and the ability to perform that role. And then another scenario that pops into mind is when we are almost sacrificing ourselves to uphold a relationship that isn't working for us or that isn't nourishing us the way that love is supposed to, because we may feel as though we don't deserve love. And so that is something that I see very often for a lot of my clients, that those deep fears and those deeply rooted limiting beliefs from whether it was their childhood or their young adolescence, that they feel as though that they aren't enough or that they aren't worthy.
So the strange thing about the quotes, strange in a good way, is that despite everything and all the explanations so far, she goes on to tell us that that's not your deepest fear, that your deepest fear is not your fear being inadequate, is the fact that you're powerful beyond measure. I'm lost. What does that even mean?
That behind all of the fear and all of the doubt, that our mind tries to quiet us or dim that light because it naturally wants us to stay in the comfort zone. When we release all of that and start to move through it, we have to push our boundaries. It's natural and it's what we have to do to find our passion and purpose in life. And so when we move beyond that fear and doubt and we truly step into and we create amazing things that we would have never thought was possible.
Yeah. I mean, what I understand that the fear of powerful beyond measure to mean is that the possibility of things working out if we put our mind to do it is just so great that we know it, we think about it, yet we do not do it. It's more like when people say that you're afraid of success. It's not like you're afraid of failing. You're afraid of success. You're afraid of it will work. Oh, if I do it still, I'll get accepted. Oh, if I do it, I'll get called on stage to speak and talk and do all those things. Wow. And one of the things that deeply resonates with me is the fact that when we do decide to take these decisions and take these bold steps in our life, we automatically, by our presence, give others permission. We liberate others. So basically, we give others permission to shine their own light. And I've seen this, like we have people who we've never met in real life, but probably because we've seen them on media or, they happen to be our neighbor and they've made certain decisions, they've influenced us without them even talking to us. They don't even know that we exist. But we just see them like, yeah, this guy, he went to so school and he did well. And then they tell you that nobody ever graduates from this school. Nobody ever does well. Everybody here. And you're like, yeah, I know this fellow. This fellow did well. And you've never met that fellow. The fellow has never met you. And you're like, but it happens to be a legend in the whole, people say there's only one guy that's passed of this since the history of this school. Like, yeah, I could be that guy. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing this quote. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Wow. I feel like this is one of those quotes that it explains itself. Yeah, it explains itself.
And it can be applied to so many different aspects of our lives.
Yeah. Okay, it's a good thing you mentioned application. So what are the go-to application you love to share with us?
To contact me?
No, 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 like the application of the quote. Yeah, the application of the quote in our lives. Yeah, yeah. So the point when I ask you for the call to action, it to be clear, you understand and get it. No, at the end of the episode, I'll ask you for that.
Okay. Yeah, so this quote can definitely be applied to almost any area and aspect of our lives, from when we're pursuing our career, when we're doing our degrees. There's a lot of pressure and expectation when it comes to what career to pursue and what degree to get, and just holding on to this quote and actually soul searching to find what it is that your true passion purposes in life, because that's what's going to liberate you at the end. If you end up going into a career or getting a degree that you really aren't passionate about, you're never going to allow your light to fully shine.
Yeah.
You'll just be then, you know, stuck in a career or having a degree that you really can't do anything with, or you aren't happy with, right?
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Jamie, for sharing this with us. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
And yeah, what do you do? Like, I'm just curious. I really want to know. Right? I mean, we've talked about this quote and you shared some story, but like, what do you do professionally?
Mhm. So I am a trauma relief specialist and also organizational wellness facilitator. I come into different organizations and I offer wellness workshops as well as intentional communication workshops to really expand their way of thinking, increasing the team collaborations, and utilizing neurolinguistic programming, which is what I love to utilize when I'm doing one-to-one coaching. So helping men and women heal from past trauma, releasing the anger, sadness, shame, and guilt from past traumatic experiences, and moving through and releasing the limiting beliefs such as I'm not enough or I'm not worthy, so that they can step into their power.
You really love what you do.
I do.
Yeah,
I
like
do.
the moment
Every single time I see my clients release energy and negative emotions, I'm doing my dance. Oh yeah.
you see the energy just changed immediately. You started talking about what you do. The energy just changed. It was different. I was like, whoo! I was like, we've moved to a different frequency. Wow, that's nice. Yeah, I mean, for some persons, once they start talking about what they do, it's it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, you notice that you start wondering what's going on with you. Are you
You're right.
are you good? Hope you're not being maltreated at work. And you're like, yeah, I don't want to talk about work. Let's talk about something else. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's nice. I would have loved to. Okay. Okay. Before I start talking shop, where can listeners learn more about you and check out what you do?
Yes, definitely. I'm on Instagram at Sunshine Soul Vibe. My website is Sunshine Soul Vibes, and LinkedIn.
Okay. Once again, thanks for coming on the podcast.
It's been great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Relatable Wisdom. If you found something meaningful in this episode, make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that by buying me a coffee. The link is in the show notes. Every little bit keeps the conversations going. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep growing.